Hello, everyone. I'm really a little bit overwhelmed by the story that Amy shared. Thank you. Because it's not very common for us to get such a candid view into what the job of a head of customer experience officer grows into and grows toward. It's very nice. I'm sure that as you develop the capabilities and the culture, at some point soon enough, and perhaps you're already doing this, technology will also come into your purview. Say, well, now we got to make it real. What are the things that we need to do to ensure that technologically, from a platform perspective, that all these best practices, these cultural guidelines that we're putting in place, these strategies, that they can be realized and that they can be sustained. So my name is Ashu Roy. I'm the CEO of eGain. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is a little bit more tactical, operational view into what we see as we are helping our clients in realizing their digital transformation goals in customer engagement. Now that's a mouthful, I recognize that. But it's a journey that we have seen hundreds of our clients go through, and we help them in that journey. Every large business, many of you are part of that, is driving really hard toward transformation of their customer engagement, digitally, mostly. And so, oops, that's not what I intended. Can you turn it on? Ah, thank you. So there is a kill switch right next to it. Okay. Something I should know of. So we walk in the customer's shoes. We figure out the journeys, all the things that you all are doing, really focusing on. And as a result of that, you are creating more ways for your customers to connect with you easily. That's what I see happening through different channels, touch points, self-service, apps, website, social, all the different touch points. And as you make it easier and easier, what happens? The amount of customer contact goes up. That's normal supply-demand. Like when the cost of doing something goes down, demand goes up, consumption goes up. And so there's an interesting, I think someone used the analogy of an escalator yesterday, and I think it's very, very apt. CX is kind of stuck. You're constantly trying to do more, and the volumes of customer contact go up, not necessarily through just the phone channel, though the phone channel, interestingly, has not gone down dramatically for most businesses, even though the online stuff has grown a lot. And clearly, the amount of service requests that you get are not growing linearly to your business growth. Most businesses, the amount of total service requests, including self-service, has gone up as a proportion to their business. Because customers want to talk to you. They want to engage because the cost of engaging has gone down. That's the fundamental trend with digitalization. Okay. So we all talk about this. I'm not going to try to make a big deal of it. We understand this. Agent experience is at the core of customer experience. We all recognize that. Okay? But there are two things that I want to bring your attention to. Number one, and this is important because the job of the agents, and we see this, the job of the agents in your organizations is getting harder. Because the questions the customers are asking by the time they get to the agent are not the easy ones anymore. The easy ones are increasingly taken away by self-service. So what remains is much harder, much trickier. That's one thing. The other thing, which is where we come in at eGain, is that the tools that these agents have do not work well. They're not fit for purpose. Now, I I can go into talking about designing that experience. I can talk about how the eventual vision of that should be, but I'm going to focus my attention on one aspect of that. And I'll try to frame it in the context of what I think are the reasons behind this challenge. Right? The first thing which all of us talked about yesterday, I think I heard one gentleman here from Omni talking about it, where instead of just focusing on the product, in this case a hotel, hospitality experience, instead of just focusing on the consumption of that hotel room, now he was talking about the pre-consumption phase and the post-consumption phase. What does that do? That extends the definition of the product that you are supporting, that you are servicing now, by creating variations that grow combinatorially. Because if you have 10 options in consumption, you have 10 options in pre-consumption, and another 10 in post-consumption, now you're talking about 1,000 variations. That's the biggest challenge in the job of a service associate. Because companies are trying to create whole products. They're trying to take care of the customer. They're trying to walk in the shoes, think like the customer. When you think like the customer, you create a solution which is end-to-end. And so the brunt of that is borne by the service associate. Because now the end-to-end journey is a lot more complex, a lot more variation. The second thing is all the digital touch points we talked about, just growing up and up and up. What does that do? More data on the screen of the agent. In those moments that matter, that Amy's talking about, those mission moments, now instead of having X amount of data, you have 10X amount of data that is thrown at you through tabs, through different widgets. And you, as an agent, have to figure all this out in the moment. You have to be a super agent. Of course, hybrid work has made it even harder, because now people don't have the informal sort of network of support. You cannot just lean across your cube and ask a question. And then finally, not me, but those who are joining the new workforce are digital native. These are folks who have never seen life without the consumer internet. They do not want to learn the way typical learning happens, which is in classrooms, which is in structured courses. They want learning by doing, by playing. They're used to consumerized interfaces. They don't like a lot of data just thrown at them and having to figure it out. They want to be guided. If you look at those four trends, that's what's making the task of the agent so much harder, and why the frustration levels are so high. Our thesis, and at this point, I wouldn't say it's a theory, because we cannot prove it, but there is enough evidence that we believe this is a pretty darn good thesis, that knowledge and the ability to use relevant content and knowledge presented to the agent in the moment, not necessarily through structured training only, can create a big difference in customer experience. And when I use a lot of Gartner quotes here, it's not because I believe they're always right, but, and this is an unpaid advertisement for them, I do believe that they talk to more of you than anyone else in the market research business. And they do consult you. And they do listen to what you are saying in terms of your needs and your problems, and they're fairly pragmatic in the way you can solve those problems. So it's a good place to see where they think the industry is at, the priorities should be. So let's look at this claim that knowledge can make a big difference, and sort of ask ourselves the question, well, knowledge management has been around for some time. So what's mean? Okay. So let's talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about is this idea that knowledge management is more than just practices. And that's where technology comes in. To us at eGain and to other providers in this space, knowledge is about your know-how being captured and retrieved in an efficient, easy way. Like there are lots of best practices in it. And these are the 7 best practices that Gartner talks about, and broadly, we agree with it. We see it working in our client environments. The idea of a consumerized interface, which is outside-in design thinking. The idea of a centralized knowledge across a large enterprise, even if you have to do it in a personalized way for every group, but the common knowledge lake, I'm creating that term, needs to be one. And then the whole notion of ability to find, guide, and eventually drive conversational behavior out of that so that the consumption is easy. The 7 practices encompass that. And this is an interesting point. If you do not have a technology capability to bring all these practices together, then chances are it doesn't quite work in a sustainable way. And that's an interesting observation from Gartner. That if you just do 1 or 2 of these things, it's not easy to corral the knowledge management. And that has been historically a challenge with technology. We believe that a knowledge hub, and this is a notion again that we will talk about in a bit, can help you do all of that well. So let's look at what used to be. In the past, and those of us who have been around, knowledge management was very, very big in the late 80s and early 90s. I'm sure some of you might remember. The idea of knowledge management historically was very horizontal in the enterprise. It was not focused on specific use cases and problem areas. It was the idea that you would share and create knowledge as an organization. The know-how would then help you improve your ability to drive business performance. But the metrics were weak, the technologies were not quite adequate, and there was not enough performance-oriented focus on it. It was a sort of by the geeks, for the geeks, of the geeks kind of project. Okay? The new world is different. The knowledge hub way we see as a very focused approach where you have a comprehensive set of technology capabilities, right, around the 7 best practices that I just mentioned. Having that critical mass of features and then have that in a conversational way you can publish that. What's important there is the consumption. If something is very big and document-oriented, lots of instructions, that's not consumable. Think of it from the agent's perspective. But if it is right in the moment with guidance built into it, it's conversational, it's easy, it can also be serving the end customers. It needs to be composable because you cannot build a solution out of the box that works for everyone, especially in the enterprise. And so composability is critical, so you can extend it easily. And finally, it needs to be connected into your systems of record, communication, content, so open interfaces with pre-connections into the modern systems, so you can quickly bring these things together. If you have that, we believe and we see it, that knowledge becomes easy and fun. This notion of wow is something we have developed with our customers. What we have seen is that with knowledge projects, and with most technology projects, what's the first milestone of any big project? I'm sure all of you can, if I tell you, it'll be obvious. It's a minimum viable product, right? MVP, we're very used to it. Our assessment is that if you do MVP the MVP way, knowledge projects invariably fail. And the reason for it is that MVP is not a very wow experience. It's sort of a small little prototype. Doesn't impress. And with knowledge, this is the part that if you don't remember anything else around what I'm saying today, just remember this one thing. Knowledge is not a required use for an agent. Whereas information that you put about the customer's address and their entitlement and what they bought, that's required reading. There's no way the agent can answer a phone call or a chat without looking at that information. But if the knowledge is not wow, they don't read it. They don't follow it. So that wow experience is what we believe needs to be the first point of entry for any knowledge engagement in a digital transformation project. So the first time you enter, the first group of agents you interact with, it should be a wow experience. And when they feel that, then the sort of virtuous cycle kicks in. Let me give you some stories that will bring this to life. Okay? The first one I want to talk about is a telco, a global telco that we have worked with for over 5 years now. They have rolled out knowledge-first engagement for 30,000 agents and store associates across the business. 25 million contacts a year are handled through our knowledge-guided capability. And when you do that, you see the sort of business impact. You see the fact that your first contact resolution in their case went from 62% to 85%. That's a 35% increase. Their time to competence, which is a huge issue for most of you, for new agents, that compressed by half. Because now they're not training their people on the product. They are just training people on empathy, on interpersonal, on their way of brand voice. That's what they're training on. And at the same time, we saw a big jump, 25 points jump, that they attribute to their knowledge solution, which internally they call Albert, by the way, because they didn't want to pay for the Einstein trademark. So you should be able to figure that out, right? Another one I'll tell you, which is different. The first one, the telco, started with, they had 4 different knowledge bases when we went into that organization, and then we brought it into one. This one is different. This company was around a $400 million business when we started with them 3 years ago. Now they're close to $1 billion business in the US. They had a CRM system, the biggest one there is, so you know which one it is. They had knowledge from that CRM system. They were using that to enable their agents. The agents just would not use it. They had all the knowledge thrown in because it was drab, it was boring, it was hard to consume, it was not personalized. We got in, we worked with them, and now 3 things have happened. This is the part, the journey that I think, as you look at your transformation, you have the opportunity to think about. Start with the core of your agents, where their agent confidence scores, which is a really nice metric, it's a field metric, right, went up by 60%. The agents felt more confident about handling their customers with our knowledge tool. And the next phase of it was taking the same knowledge, personalizing it, profiled, and serving it through self-service, improving self-service. But wait, there's a third leg. In their case, because their products themselves are software, they embedded this knowledge into their software. So now the product itself is enabled with service. So now you've got preemptive service going. So the power of a knowledge hub is just that. You start in one place, you have a critical mass of features and capabilities. You can go from the agent to the end customer, and then if you have, which most of you do, digital products, get into the digital product itself. And another one which is not as hyper growth, but huge, large insurance company, we started with one of their contact centers with knowledge. Again, the same challenge for them. They have a legacy knowledge tool. They think they have everything, but it's just that the solution doesn't work well for them. So their digital transformation initiatives were just not getting results. And during the pandemic, we rolled it out. All their at-home work agents, which was true for all of you, were delighted with the solution because now they did not have to worry about compliance. They didn't have to worry about getting trained. They were just using the guidance of the knowledge solution. So I'll leave you with one thought. You are dealing with a lot of things in customer transformation, customer engagement automation. If you care about not just connecting your customers with your agents, because I know you don't, you want to do more than that. You want to solve those conversations with the right content, the right knowledge. And if you want to do that, you are not alone. A lot of people who are already doing it. And I believe that if you look at that, that may be something that could be relevant for your business. Thank you for your time.